there, this is BugPowderDust. Thank you once again for joining me for the absolute beginner's guide to Prison Architect. This is part 2. If you've missed part 1, then you can click on the link in the video description and that will take you to the very first episode where we covered some of the very basics about foundations. We covered the blue button at the bottom of the screen here, and we talked a little bit about the warden and how important he was to a jail. In this episode we will get a basic detention centre up and running, but firstly I just want to take you through the reports section over here on the right hand side. This is really important. You'll see that some of the tabs here are not actually clickable, or they are, but it says you need psychologists, you need a warden, prison policy, etc, etc. Most of this is self-explanatory, but you can get to this, you can start to hire these people once you've unlocked bureaucracy. We covered bureaucracy yesterday. You need to zone an office for a warden, then hire a warden, and then you can start unlocking all of these things. The staff tab at the top is a very easy way to find out where particular staff are. If you can't find them, you just hover over them, as you can see. Now from here you can very easily sack workers just by clicking the button. Be careful here you don't get a confirmation option, you literally just fire them. But it's very helpful if you can't find a particular member of staff. Same thing goes for the prisoners. Obviously you can't fire the prisoners, but you can find them very easily if you hover over them. Jobs, this is a list of outstanding jobs. So for instance, if we get workers to build a brick wall, you'll see that there's a list of jobs listing here which each of the workers are doing. Let's cancel that and that disappear. Now in terms of grants, this is actually a really good place to start. Basically what these do is these give you some direction of what you need to be doing with your prison if you're not entirely sure. So I highly recommend using grants. These are available right from the start. And what it says here is that you need to build a basic detention centre. So it says you'll get 30,000 in total, and it says on the left here you'll get, I need to hover over that, you'll get a 20,000 advance payment, you get that straight away, and you get a 10,000 bonus on completion. Now bearing in mind you only start with $30,000, that's actually very lucrative, so you can double your starting money, and you will need it, so I recommend taking this even if you know what you're doing. So in order to accept a grant, you just literally click on it. So you can see now it says in progress, and over here it now gives you some idea on your kind of notepad area on the left here of what you need to be doing. The other thing that you can do here, I'll recommend highly, is clicking on the second grant. You can accept 2 grants at a time, and then you can accept the administration centre grant. This is critical. Just accept that. You build 2 offices, you hire a warden, unlock finance and hire an accountant. Now hiring a warden is really the most important thing that you do right to the start of the game, because it allows you to unlock other areas using the bureaucracy screen, which I said I covered yesterday, but I will cover again. So having got these areas, let's press on. I'm going to build a basic jail. So here's deliveries, workmen are waiting to go. The thing I need to do first is build a holding cell. Now when you start playing, let me just pause the game a sec. When we start playing, you can either skip building a holding cell completely and just go for starting to build a basic detention centre so you can put in some cells, or you can build a holding cell. All the holding cell is for the initial inlet of prisoners. It says here they're arriving at 8 AM, which is, so you've got about 21 hours to go till they arrive. However, you can switch this off. So if you go to prisoners, you'll see here that this is closed, that's open, that's closed. This means I'm open or closed to high risk. So if I click on this and change it to open, over here it now says categories normal and max. So these 8 prisoners arriving at 8 AM will be a mixture of both normal and max sec. If I don't want max sec or high risk, I turn it off and it's back to normal. However, you can also click on normal risk excuse me, and say closed, which means now my prison is closed to new inmates. So you have the option here, if you feel more comfortable, you can turn off any prison intake at all until you're ready. So you have the choice here. I, when starting a new prison, don't tend to bother with a holding cell. I mean, I do because I get the $10,000 for the grant, but then I just use the room for something else. So your mileage may vary, it's entirely up to you what you feel more comfortable with, but I tend to just go with the normal cell block straight away. For the purpose of the tutorial, I'm going to build a holding cell, just so you can see it being completed. I am going to turn off the intake for now anyway, and we'll basically go from there. Right, so let's build some foundations. Let's go with brick, and let me say, so we're going to build a big thing up here, and maybe going to put in some Let's put some fencing around as well. I just want to give you an example of what can be done here with jail. So again, you can speed things up just to make sure things are done quickly. You notice now it says requires entrance, so I need to put in a door. Now this door can be moved at a later date. It just needs to go in. Now, bear in mind, if you want to, you can rotate the orientation of the door by pressing the R button, or in my case, I think this is probably default, pressing the middle mouse button. This is important. If you come from a game like RimWorld, for instance, it doesn't matter about rotating the doors, they will find their own rotation. However, in Prison Architect it does make a difference. So I'm going to put it in the right orientation, put it in like that. Excuse me. A bit of a dry throat today. The door's coming down. So they're getting to work on the fence. Let's speed that up. Now the next thing we're going to do is, so we look holding cell, we're going to build a shower. So here is our holding cell. But it's a bit big. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to look at the holding cell. Where's the holding cell? Here we go. It needs to be 5 by 5, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So I'm going to put in a wall to subdivide this indoors building. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Like this. So this can be the holding cell on this side. And what else do I need? I also need showers, yard, kitchen, and this can be like, we can have a shower block in here as well, should we want to. So we can subdivide this. I'm just trying to do a smart use of space here. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to make this a holding cell. So let's zone that out. It may be clearer actually if I zone it once the wall's been built, just so you can see what's being done. So I'm just going to speed things up here. I shouldn't have built such a big fence, to be honest, but I think you kind of get the idea. Then we also have to plan to think, well, we need to build 2 offices. However, what I'm going to do here, I've got enough space here to put an office in here. I'm just trying to be thrifty with space, to be honest. So I'm going to put an office in here for the warden. Then we can get the warden in. And this can be the shower area, for instance. Okay, so now that's all built, I'm going to zone this as holding. Like so. Alright, that's a holding cell, great. Oh, it says here, hang on, it's the text in red, it's not enclosed. It says it's not indoors, which is interesting. That should clear, there we go. So it's not enclosed, there's no toilet and there's no bench. So it tells us what we need to put in. So that's absolutely fine. We put in a jail door to make it enclosed. We're going to put in a toilet. And we're going to put in a bench. Now if you want, you can put other stuff in here, and if you are planning to use your holding cell for a length of time, so I'd recommend to stick in a bed or 2. That's no bad thing. Now this area here is going to be the shower. So I'm going to put in a shower area, and I can't see shower, there we go. So let's just zone that showers. Now the thing with showers is that obviously they need to have water connected to them. The other thing you can do is you can click and drag, and that will install a load of shower heads. You don't have to keep clicking, so that's another nice thing to have. Again, using R or middle mouse button to rotate the showers around. Okay, great. So that's all looking very good. Now the next thing we're going to do is we need to build power. Let's put power up here, and we're going to build a water pump station as well. Notice I made a mistake here. I've not left a gap of 1 square all around the power station for the capacitors, which I went over in yesterday's episode. So if you missed that, it's worth watching. So that's the power done. Then we're going to zone this as the office. Now if you hover over the office, it says there what it needs to be, minimum size 4 by 4. Fortunately that is 4 by 4. That's going to be the office for our warden. And just to make it neat and tidy, I'm going to put in that there, and also a staff door. So what's the difference between a door, a staff door, and a jail door? Now this is really important, and it's going to be something that you're going to need to understand to run a prison. A jail door can only be opened by your prison wardens. Okay. A staff door can be opened by any members of your staff, so not just prison wardens, but also workmen, janitors, cooks, etc. A normal door can be opened by anybody at all. You can open these doors manually should you want to, but bear in mind if you put jail doors everywhere, your workmen and people like that are going to have to stop, and they're going to have the door opened for them, either by you or by a member of staff. And they're going to have to travel to that location to open it up, at least in the early game. It gets a little bit more flexible moving forward with remote doors, but I'm not going to cover that in this episode. So just bear in mind what you need to do In this instance, we just need to put staff door on. Okay, so that's good. So that's all done. What we're going to do now is you'll see now very quickly that we need to have electricity in here, and we need to connect water up to these pipes. So I'm going to put some electrical cable. You don't have to join it to the end of the power station. You can do it from anywhere, just from in here. And let's just stretch that over there a little bit. You don't have to connect up the electrical cable to each one of these flashing symbols, not for the lights. I did cover this in yesterday's episode, so you might want to watch that again. Now, in terms of pipes, I'm going to run a large pipe just coming out of the water pump station, and then break it into small pipes. Again, this was covered in yesterday's episode. So I'm going to do that, which means that should have water, this should have electricity, so we're going to just speed up a little bit. So this is the utilities view. Click to come out of it, and you'll see now that the holding cell no longer has a red triangle, so that's ready to go. Great, so that's all done. You'll see now all the flashing has gone. The flashing will now disappear from the toilet as well. So your holding cell is pretty much ready to go. What about the office? Well, it says here we need an office desk, chair and filing cabinet. So again, we zoom in, you'll see that it's detected what zone you're in, and it's going to recommend to you what it is you need. So chair, office desk, so, and filing cabinet, like that. Now at this point we can also hire our warden. So let's hire the warden. Now as soon as the office becomes viable, as in it has all the bits and pieces it needs, this will now turn to say warden's office. As soon as the filing cabinet goes in, there we go, warden's office. Now, this is quite an important step, because what it means is that you now have access to the bureaucracy tab. Again, I covered this in yesterday's video. You can now start to unlock other members of staff. So, if you recall, one of our tasks here was to unlock finance through bureaucracy. So what we can do is we can start to do that. Just click on finance. It's going to take 5 hours and 58 minutes in game time. This is not real time. Now, sometimes I've heard people say, well, this is stuck on 5 hours 59 minutes, it's not counting down. There's a couple of reasons for this. Firstly, it means that the warden has been employed, but it doesn't have an office, so he can't start to work. And I've forgotten the second reason. But this is the main cause of the problem, is that the warden has been employed, you can get to bureaucracy, but he doesn't have an office, so he can't actually start to do his bureaucracy stuff. So bear that in mind. So we've got the holding cell, we've got a shower, it's been crossed out over here. Next thing we need to do is we need to set up a yard. Now yards are really easy to do, you just need to find a patch of land, and you need to find the yard and then zone it. That's all you've got to do. Now generally, yards are going to moan, because it says it's not secure behind at least one door. Now don't be fooled by thinking you have to surround it with wire, you don't, but what it means is that prisoners have a route out. So what I'm going to do here, I'm going to basically fence all the way, where's fence? Okay, that's under materials, that's why. I'm going to fence right up to the road, like this, and I'm going to complete the fence over here as well. Now, another thing to show you, and this is really important, is you have something called a road gate. And what a road gate does is that stretches across the road, because you'd think, well, you can't fence over the road, you see. If I try and fence over the road, what happens is it goes red. Now, before one of the alphas, I think 5 or 10 alphas ago, you couldn't do anything about this. So you had to get quite tricky with sort of fencing around the road, and it caused problems for deliveries. Then what Introversion did is they gave us the road gate, which is really cool. So you can stretch that over there, and put a road gate over here, and then you can basically fence this area as well. So this gives you a secure perimeter, secure-ish, anyway, you can do that. Okay, so you might think, well great, so how does a road gate work? Well literally it just works like a door. So as soon as it's there, you can open it, you can lock it shut, and later on you can set this to be remote. So when trucks turn up, this has to be opened for them. You can either do it yourself, or you can get a security officer to come up and open it. In a later stage of the game, you can actually get it to be opened remotely and automatic. So you'll see now that the yard has now stopped moaning that it's not surrounded, because what it's done is it's basically worked out that prisoners now don't have open access to the outside world. You can see here, and obviously this won't be open all the time, but you can see here that they can't get around this way, they can't get around that way, it's all fenced off. There is a perimeter, so the yard is done, and that's been crossed off. Brilliant. That was easy. So what's next? Kitchen, canteen. Alright, fine. So let's build a kitchen. So let's go with brick building again. We're going to do just a little thing like so, just to give you the idea. And again, you need an entrance. Now bear in mind that the kitchen is going to need deliveries constantly with food. So it makes sense to have it either near your deliveries area or to have a nice clear path to be delivered into the kitchen. Also bear in mind that you can have prisoners working in the kitchen as well, should you want to. So you might want to factor that in to how secure you want it to be. For now I'm just going to stick the door in there. Let's speed it up. Let's watch these guys finish. While they're doing that, you might want to bear in mind that showers, they obviously produce water, funnily enough. So you're going to have to use drains. Now, if you don't use drains, the shower water will basically spread to all the surrounding cells and it will make things quite horrible. Make it dirty, prisoners will start complaining. So use drains liberally. Now what drains do is they don't suck water towards them. The way they act is they basically are a blocker. So all you really need is to have some drains there. The water will never come around here, it will never go out there, and it will never go through there. If you just have some drains up here, that's kind of fine, but if you I think if you don't have them at the bottom, the water will spread out from these bottom two. So don't overdo it on the drains. Just make sure that they cover the outer edges of the showers. So that should be fine. So it looks like that's done here. We'll just let that finish. There we go. Awesome. Right. So what we're going to do very quickly now is we're going to partition this off. I'm going to stick a staff door in there. And then this bit of the room is going to be the kitchen. Now generally the kitchen is going to be smaller than the canteen because you're eventually going to have more prisoners coming to the canteen. So that's going to expand, it's going to scale a lot more quickly than a kitchen will. So bear this in mind when you start your jail, that your canteen is going to need to be expanded. You're going to get loads more people, and don't put buildings around your canteen unless you don't mind knocking them down and rezoning, or making new canteens and kitchens. Something to bear in mind. So let's stick that. Right, so what have we got here? We now say in a kitchen says needs a cooker, fridge and a sink. So again, if you zoom in on the kitchen, you get them highlighted in white. So let's have a sink, let's have a cooker, you can rotate it. I don't think it matters too much if you get it wrong. And then you've got a fridge. Okay, great. So that's the first three components you need in your kitchen. In the canteen, very simply, you need a table and you need a couple of benches. Again, you can put these on either side. Right, so we're good to go. Now, here we go. So we're plugging those in. I'm going to run some electric cable down. Now, with as I mentioned yesterday, I'm not going to go into this again because I mentioned it yesterday, but electrical cable coming down into the building will power the lights automatically, but does need to be connected directly to certain items, in this case the cooker and the fridge. So we've lined that up. And about this, we need a serving table. Yeah, of course we do. So you go to canteen, and the serving table is where the chefs will put the food when it's ready to be collected and taken back to the tables. So let's do that. There we go. Now what's happened there, did you notice that? What's happened is the power station has become overloaded. If I just switch on, and it's basically switched itself off, if I switch it on, you'll see that it's powered up, but it's got too much power. So things like fridges, cookers, workshops, saws, things like that take a lot of power. So that's alright, that's fine. What we need to do is we need to add on a capacitor or two. Every capacitor you add doubles the power of the power station. So let me add one, and I'll demonstrate this to you. I did show it to you yesterday, in yesterday's episode, but this is quite important to see, so I'm going to go over it again. Right. So what's happened here is this bar is now doubled. So this is what it was before, and now we've got another capacitor on it. If I switch that on now, you see, you'll see that's just gone over what the previous power was. These aren't expensive, but it's worth sticking on maybe just another one, just give you a little bit of breathing space. So there we go. Right. Sink hasn't been connected up to the water, so let's do that very quickly. Just going to stretch that down across, so, and there we go. That's that done quite quickly. Now the other thing that we need to do, we need to hire 2 guards, 2 cooks, and an accountant, and build 2 offices. Well, the thing is, because I know offices are 4x4, that's why I made this the size it was. So let me just very quickly zone that as an office. like that, and stick in a chair, stick in, where are we, filing cabinet, and an office desk. And that's pretty much good to go once that's been installed, so that's awesome. So the office is ready. That will now disappear. We can now hire an accountant. That's the accountant. There we go. So she's happy. This appears to be not connected. Maybe I've messed that up actually. That's my bad. Okay. Hire 2 guards and 2 cooks, because obviously the kitchen's no good without cooks. So let's hire 2 guards, 2 and 2 cooks. Good. So they're good to go. So now we have, you'll notice the grant has disappeared. We've also got, if I just hover over here, you'll see now that we got the grant completion payment at the top, 10,000. So we've completed both grants, and to be honest, we are pretty much ready to go now to have our first prisoners. At this point, it's probably a good idea now to start planning so where your cell block is going to be, your new cell block. You'll notice now also that because we've got the warden and the accountant, we've now got a couple more tabs opened up. Programs, they're all locked, but you'll need to get prison labour up for those. The finance tab has become unlocked, so it tells you what your income is and what your expenses are. I wouldn't worry about this too much at the moment. You've got quite a lot of money as it stands, but you will need to initiate prison labour in order to start getting some money back. And again, valuation. Now, prison labour is something that you will unlock using bureaucracy. You can see it down here. So you're not going to get to it straight away. You need to unlock maintenance first. And if you hover over these things, it tells you what it is you're able to do. And again, these guys need officers. This guy, this guy, this guy. And also, let me see, psychology needs an officer as well. Health just needs a warden. And then you can build the infirmary. If you hover over these boxes, it gives you a lot more information about what each one gives you. So that it's worth looking at. I'm not going to delve into that too much at this point. Alright, so you're thinking, great, so I've got that set up, I can get my first prisoners in. So I'm going to say, yep, or let's just say low risk, let's say low risk prisoners, I think, and they're going to come tomorrow at 8 AM as it says here. And it tells you you're going to get 8. Now this number is random, so sometimes it can be 8, sometimes it will be 20. If you don't have the capacity, you can just basically say, well, I'm not very happy with that, and I'll just turn that off. And then when you turn it back on, it should be a different number. So that's all good. Right, so we have our first kind of area ready to go. Now, the thing you need to do is go to regime. Before your prisoners arrive, go to regime. This default regime is not great. You don't want to put your prisoners on lockup, really, if you can avoid it, because all it does is aggravate them. There's no reason for them to be on lockup the whole time. So what you can do is you can very easily, if you want to change the regime, you click on the option over here, so say eat, and then you click in there, and then maybe sleep, and then you put it in there, like so. It's very easy to change. So definitely get rid of the lockups. So think about it, when the prisoners wake up in the morning, do they want to eat straight away, or maybe have a shower first? It's entirely up to you. What I would do, I'd recommend you give them a shower, give them a little bit of free time. So basically shower means they can deal with their hygiene need, then they can have some free time, maybe to go to toilet or do whatever, and then they get breakfast. And after breakfast they get maybe a bit yard time, a little bit of free time. They don't need to eat 3 times a day. That's the only thing I would say. So give them some free time, bit of yard. Certainly at the start of the game, the prisoners are pretty much kicking about, not doing a great deal for most of the day, which is why I think lockup was in there, but I don't particularly like lockup very much, so give them 2 hours to eat as well. Now, with all that free time, you're going to want to give them something to do. So in the yard, what you can do in the yard is you can give them things to do in the yard when they are in there. So for instance, you can give them phone booths, so we can stick a couple of phone booths in the yard. This means that it will deal with their family need. Now I've been talking about needs a little bit. In order to get this, I'm going to get the psychologist so you can understand what I'm talking about. Let's get the psychologist unlocked. Because what the psychologist does is it tells you what your prisoners are requiring, what they're running low on, and that's key to getting a prison run properly. What I will need to do is build a office for the psychologist, otherwise it's not going to work. So let me just plan this out very quickly. Make sure I've got enough space. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, that's fine, so I don't need that. So I'm going to build the brick foundations for the psychologist's office. Stick a door in there. Where are we? Objects. Door. Like that. Okay, brilliant. So while that's being built, I'm going to go back to here. I'm going to carry on putting some of the phone booths and maybe a pool table. Don't worry about the fact it's outdoors. That doesn't make a great deal of difference here, because you can actually put TVs outside as well. A couple of weights benches, maybe a couple of TVs. So what this is doing is it's keeping the prisoners happy, and well, there we go. That's very quick. Rooms. Let's go to office build. Oops, there we go. Office. So it needs office, desk, chair, filing cabinet, of course. So chair, filing cabinet, and a desk. Where's the, that's TV. Don't want that. Where's the desk? So zoom in. There we go. Right. So that's going to be arriving very soon. Okay, what's coming? Have we unlocked the psychologist? I think we... No, that's the psychologist is in progress, as you can see. In 2 hours and 20 minutes. Now, so what's happening here is we need to get the utilities plugged in. So the TVs do need to be plugged up directly. Let's do that. So the TV is going to start working. And we're going to wait for the psychologist to be finished. So we've got about another 8 hours before the first prison starts to arrive. So what we need to do now is start to plan out the actual block that we're going to build, the cell block for our prisoners to go in, because one holding cell isn't going to be enough. Now that bell, that dingly bell went off. That means that my psychologist is ready to go. So let's put them in their office. Now, as I said before, psychologist is absolutely critical. Go to reports, and you'll see now that the needs tab is open. And this is something I look at all the time in my videos, because it gives you an idea of what the prisoners are and aren't happy about in your prison. At the moment, it's showing nothing because you haven't got any prisoners. So what I will do is when the prisoners arrive, in it looks like tomorrow's episode now, I'll explain what the needs tab does. Each one of these needs can be catered for by something you can provide. For instance, bladder and bowels will be catered for by them using toilets. That's quite easy. Sleep is obviously self-explanatory. Food, also self-explanatory. Safety is never that much of an issue. It's basically how safe the prisoners feel in your prison. This has never become an issue for me, so I've not had to look into it very much. I don't think it will be an issue for you either, hopefully. Hygiene's kind of clothes. I'm going to go through this in a little bit more detail in tomorrow's episode, because we are kind of running out of time and our prisoners will be arriving. But I hope this gives you some kind of idea of how to get a basic prison up and running. As I said, you can go with cells straight away, and what I'm going to do is when the prisoners arrive, I'm going to convert this into a few cells to show you that you can actually convert existing areas into a cell block. This holding cell is too big, but I did that on purpose. So I'll be converting this into a couple of cells, and I'll be expanding this, making this into a cell block as well. And then you'll get to see what it's like when the first prisoners arrive. Things do start getting a lot more complicated, because up to now it's been very much easy mode. And you'll see that you've got to keep an eye on everything. So I hope you found that useful. If you have any comments, please put them in the video section there. I'll be interested to hear any feedback at all. If you liked it, please leave a like, and I will catch you on the next episode. Cheers, bye.